I always say Zine Fest is the loudest, best day in the library, and I'm glad to do my little part in what is such a great effort. My favorite day of the year here. My name's Tim Rush. I am the Rare Books librarian here at Milwaukee Public Library, and we are hosting an open house where we have some of the materials from the collection out so people can interact with them, see what we have, get an idea, and hopefully, kind of like bait on a fish hook, hopefully they get reeled in and then come back to see more. Because it's Zine Fest today, we have a selection of zine material from the collection, because we have a pretty extensive zine collection, which is over 600 fanzines from the 1970s through the 2010s. And yeah, we are trying to get folks to see what we have and just get them excited to learn about little bits of history that aren't covered in big normal publications, that are only, saved thanks to these small press individual efforts that you end up saving. Different reactions to current events and pop culture and that sort of thing, but you also just capture this really neat snapshot of the lives of, in the case of what we have out today, local Milwaukeeans in different time periods, and how they are reacting to different things in the world, different local events, the cryptosporidium outbreak, all sorts of things. And you get this really personal view thanks to these zines, which is, something we like to preserve here in the Rare Books Room. So yeah, the interesting thing is that while in this case, rare can mean a lot of different things. The way we typically define rare is there are less than like a certain number of copies. It was published before a specific date, which makes it, rarer. For the zines, they are all a very small press. There are very few of them in existence. Typically, these are being made by hand by individual interested parties, artists, fans, that sort of thing. And so there are only, less than 100 copies that exist in the world, or less than 200 if they're really ambitious and had the money to print them. And so that's what part of why they fall within the realm of the Rare Books Room here. The other thing is preserving of like an image of Wisconsin's history and Milwaukee's history especially, and you don't get a lot of individualized personal interactions with the world within that sort of regular historical textbook or books of that sort. So instead we rely on these sort of like first-hand accounts, and thankfully zines are great for that.
I really wasn't very familiar with zines until I started working here. I work in the Special Collections Department. I'm an archivist and librarian here. And I know when I started to learn about what zines were, we have things like that in our archives collection. We don't have a official zine collection. So we try to look for things that are kind of handmade, and they don't always fit the exact role of a zine, but they're pretty close. So, and I know that everyone really likes the artwork, so we look for some unique, like hand-drawn artwork and things like that. We're in the process of organizing our own institutional records, and what we found is a lot of publications that we made here to advertise for events or get information out, book lists, programs, and there's a lot of hand-drawn covers, and a ton of them weren't made, so we easily found a whole bunch of stuff like that. So that's what we put out here. So it's pretty interesting to see just how the library operated. It's interesting because they talk more socially. We have a staff newsletter now, but it talks about things happening in the library and things we need to know. But they talked about somebody going on vacation, or Miss So-and-so went from this department, went home to see her parents. So it's pretty funny. I really like this Milwaukee Raider. It was done in the 40s during World War II. And it was actually the Ancient Order of the Bookworm, which was the children's summer reading program. So it has little airplanes drawn on here. And so what we find in the 40s during this time is a lot of course, pro-American sentiment because of World War II. And so there's a couple other things like that where they list everyone in some of the other newsletters, they list everyone who worked at the library who was drafted or went into service, or so it's always kind of fun to see just like the culture of the time, like how people were all trying to do what they can to help out with the war effort. So that's why that one's one of my favorites.